11 o'clock. I'm going to call the Electric Utility Board to order at 11 o'clock today, August 15th. And Mr. Mayor, do you need to call your group together? Are there enough of you?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I think it's just Miss Joy and I.
Okay, just the dynamic duo there. Okay. Is there any public comment? Shaking his head, no, in his pink tie. Is that a tip of the hat to Barbie? Now executive session. We are now recessing into executive session in accordance with 1 VTCA Government Code 551.086 on combative matters of LPL VTCA Government Code 551.071, seeking advice of and consultation with LPL's attorney on matters in which the duty of the attorney to the government body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Government Code, and seeking advice of its attorneys about pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers, and 3 VTCA Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, and or duties of a public officer or employee, chief administrative officer, and general counsel. If there's no objections, we're going to the second floor. Okay, and we do have a quorum. Does anybody see him? He'll probably be here. It is, by my clock, it is 12:28. I'm going to call the board meeting back into open session. And the first item of business is approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 7-0 on the minutes. Joel, are you number 7 on the agenda?
Number 7. There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a casual reminder that we have a Finance Review Committee meeting coming up on August the 30th. This will be from 11 to 12. And we're going to be presenting to the committee an ordinance change. Because we're going into the retail market, we have to change the way that we transfer funds to the city, the same kinds of funds any other utility operating here would be paying to the city. And so right now we collect this money on a gross receipts basis, and going forward we're going to be using a formula rate based on kilowatt hours. Our kilowatt hour sales will not change going forward. It should hopefully only get more and more as we get more customers in, but the gross receipts piece of it is dropping quite a bit because we're no longer in the power supply business as of hopefully next March is what our target date is. So we need to look at changing the ordinance for that basis. We're going to look at the reserve requirements as well. We would like to set a range on our reserve requirements instead of just a number, so that we have something that we can operate in between two constraints instead of just hovering around one number or the other. So it's just that's the way I've done it in my past. It's just a better way for me to be able to run the business. So August 30th, 11 to 12, Finance Review Committee. Anybody's welcome. Just kind of another note, we had to relocate one of our large, what we call auto transformers. This is a transformer that steps voltage down from 115 kV, 115,000 volts, down to 69,000 volts. This transformer was formerly at our Cook station. Our Cook station is now not operating simply because it can't get to the grid because we took this transformer out. We relocated that transformer to the Vicksburg substation. And we did that so that we could make sure we get that transformer back in service. And then we had an open loop issue that is going to be helping to resolve. And so it's in and it's running and it's functioning normally. And so just a kudos goes out to, I'm going to say Luke's crew. I'm kidding. Cody's group for getting that all pieced in and getting that done during the heat of the summer, too. We got a little bit of a treat for you guys, too. Under my item in 7, you'll see a presentation that's going with it. I'm going to stand down and let Michael Weingart do the presentation. Michael's still at the helm of the new customer-related activity with the REP services that we're going to be providing, and so he's going to step us through a few things, but of particular interest may be some checklists and some timelines that are starting to come into view now. And I'll just let Michael give us the update on that.
Michael, do you know what pages those are on?
42.
42?
Oh, look at that. So first of all, I assure you I was not hired as a public speaker. So if you ask me about power plants, I can talk all day on that. So we were talking the last month or so, and it had been quite a few months since we had been in front of you guys in an official capacity and talk about the project from an overall perspective. You know, just a high level of what all we're doing and what all we need to do to get our customers transition to competition. So just some of the real high level things that we've gotten done. And these are all things that came through you guys. You're going to know them. We've got an assigned Polar VREPs and DREPs. That was a big deal because the law said if we didn't assign somebody, we had to do it, and we were trying to get out of that business. So that was a big thing, and then the legislation right past that. Again, you know, it's not often we get to submit and get legislation passed. You know, Matt did a heck of a job, and just our folks in Austin. And so it kind of, you know, two things. Now we can share data with ERCOT, and we don't have to be in the competitive retailer business from that first bullet point. CIS, our customer information system. So that's huge. I probably can't even scratch the surface of what all that's taking. You know, we're taking the electricity utility, splitting it out, basically. And then we have to figure out a way to make it do all of the transactions that we're going to have probably thousands of coming back and forth to ERCOT on a daily basis. Just a few weeks ago, we were able to move that, the market transaction manager, this thing that's going to be talking back and forth with ERCOT, into the production environment. The team has been working amazingly. You know, Ashley Bush and her project team, along with 3 separate contractors, they've been killing it. And I've been down working across the street for the last month or so, and just, you know, seeing it, I didn't really understand it till really it's every day they're running test cases. Every day there's something wrong. Every day they got to fix it and redo it. And they're going through all these just painstaking, this grind to make sure that we're ready. And there's still a lot to do, but you know, we've done a whole lot. And then, you know, in the springtime, we completed flight testing with 85 different reps. That was a pretty big undertaking for us. We've never done that. You know, now we know that we can see them and we can get their money, which is pretty big deal if we're going to do this. And then our tariff and customer protection rules, you know, we've drafted and approved them. You know, and that started, you know, late last summer into the fall, where we had to get that to the PUC, get the pro forma in front of the PUC, and then it took them months to get it done. And then we got it back, and then it took us several months to get our piece put in there. So just, there's a lot happening, and it's just all these really big things that nobody sees but once in a year. We're doing a bunch of them in a row, and it all is tied into this one even bigger thing. So it's just, it's exciting, and we've still got our sleeves rolled up. We're still working. The first checklist we're going to get to is the ERCOT opt-in checklist. This is more of an operational checklist. From ERCOT's perspective, they want to make sure we're following their rules and we're doing things the way they like to do them. I left off a neat little legend here. Green arrows means we've got it done. Blue arrows is we know we have to do it, and it's on our list. It just hasn't come time to do it yet. And then the question mark is really anything that is kind of tied to a decision from FERC that we're just kind of anxiously waiting. We know it's there, but specifically those are tied to what we're doing from FERC. And so this checklist it's taken me 2 slides to get it all on here. There was about 16 things, I think, maybe, or so, maybe. So really, other than the one question mark, if I want to back up one page, you know, we've gotten a lot done, and the rest of it's on our radar to get done. And a lot of this stuff will be coming this fall as we start turning more of the system on and do more testing with ERCOT, getting those transactions going. The next checklist is what came from our resolution. This is what we brought, the irrevocable decision from February of 22. There were 16, I believe, specific items on that list that we had to get done before we can transition our customers to competition. Again, same check marks mean the same thing. The green check marks are done. There's a couple of items right there specifically tied to, we're just kind of waiting on FERC and that decision that's happening. And then the blue check mark is something we're going to have to determine, and that'll be your decision that we have to bring before you. We need to make sure there's sufficient competition. And we're putting some stuff together now. We've got our tariff done. We have our access agreement made public. We have had one person sign up so far. And so as we get more signed up, which there will be more in the coming weeks, we think some folks are waiting till next week. So we'll be back before you. And when we feel like we've got a case that we're at least as competitive as some nearing neighbors of Midland, Odessa, Abilene, you know, DFW, Longview, Tyler, those types of places, we'll come back before you and put that list and present it to you for you guys to vote and ultimately go to council. And then the rest of the checklist is here. Same thing, you know, we've got a lot done. We've got a few things to do. But that's where we stand right now as far as everything's looking well. There's really nothing off these checklists that's not on our radar that we're not anticipating for. Just the FERC thing is a little unknown. We're waiting on that.
Michael, on that page on the checklist, you've got question marks that are kind of the gold color and some that are blue and some that are green. So the gold ones are, how do they differ from the blue? Is the gold a FERC decision?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you see gold, that's a FERC.
That's right. And it's not anything that we don't know. We're just waiting. Those things kind of set our timeline. We can't do them until FERC's done. So.
Okay, and the blue.
The blue is just something that I think there's just the one blue. I'm going to turn down. There's just the one blue, and that's going to be ultimately it's your decision.
To decide.
That's right.
Do we have sufficient number?
That's right.
But the staff will make the recommendation on that?
We will. We'll as we get to the timeline here in a second, I think you guys. I mean, I would hope that we can bring something to y'all next month, if not October at the latest. That hey, we've got X number, I don't know, 20, 30, whatever it is, and it's representing X number of independent companies, and we feel like our customers have sufficient competition.
Okay, so on the 60-day, minimum of 60-day, that is going to be dependent on the FERC decision?
60 days for?
That number on the top of your checklist, the total load and income?
Oh, so once FERC makes a decision, and I'm going to step forward here in our slide here. Once the FERC approval right there in the middle, it sets forth the path that Harvey is going to go out and get funds and pay our settlement. And then once we know we can make that payment, we can transition the load. We don't want to transition the load early unless we know we have money to pay the payment that's required for moving the load. So really, the FERC decision setting that path is really all it's doing. It's nothing we're not planning for. That was one of the things I didn't mention. Construction's done. Luke, he had presented to you guys last month. So if I back up, that's correct. And really, by the resolution, we need to have our customers transitioned into ERCOT 60 days ahead of the competition. The timeline we're showing right now is March 4th. So if we have backup 60 days, 2 months, if we get that load transferred in by January 4th, should be fine. And that's what we're planning right now. So really, I think everything in green is just, if it's outlined in green, hey, we think we're doing good. The red is just, it's the risk of FERC, but it's not anything we're not planning for. We're just anxiously waiting that decision. And then at the very bottom, the blue items, this is really what I wanted to point your eyes to. These are some things that we are going to bring in front of you in the coming months. The DREP assignment plan, that was specific from our resolution checklist. We need to draft a document and present it to you guys for it was part of the resolution, just to make sure you guys know how we are dividing up the people that don't select a retailer. We've put out an RFP, it's been presented public. We've talked about it in Austin, but we don't have a document saying this is what we're doing. So it does say that has to be approved by board and council. Sufficient number of reps is another thing that you all will have to approve if you feel like it's sufficient. And then there will be one final resolution when I come back before you with these two checklists and say everything's green, we're good to go, and this will be the final resolution that you will vote on. And that will be more than likely after the new year once we're ready for that. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. On one of your slides, it said successfully completed flight testing with 85 reps.
That's correct.
And then there's the box, if I can find it, about us deciding if there is sufficient number. Are you anticipating 85?
I wouldn't expect all 85 will actually sign the access agreement.
Okay.
I would think probably more like half of that is best guess, or even a little less than that. But 85 have tested that they can do business in Lubbock. And some of those are, from what I understand, like Walmart has their own rep. They're only going to serve the Walmart stores. Some of those are only going to go after big businesses. Some of them are, it may be the same for the Home Depots, the other big box stores. Other than that, I'm speculating. We want as many as that want to be here to provide as much competition for the customers as possible. But 85 have tested, at least initially. We've only received one signed agreement so far.
Okay.
On that same page, your first bullet item, you have providers of last resort.
Yes.
What are the other two acronyms?
It's just a voluntary rep and a default rep. The voluntary, I'm thinking this, I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go in chronological order. The people that do, the customers that don't select a rep will get defaulted to a default rep. So we assign those as part of that polar process. And then once we're in the market, after March, and if a rep goes out of business, those folks, we have reps that volunteer to step up so the customers don't have to go to a polar and pay the higher polar rate. These volunteer reps step up and say, hey, we'll take however many, we'll take 5,000 at a competitive rate. And that's a normal process in ERCOT. Every TDU region does it that way. And it's really a PUC process. It's just we were mimicking their process. So, you bet. Anything else?
Does anyone else have any questions of Michael? Thank you. This
Thank
is
you for your
very
time.
helpful.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
did very well. Thank you, Michael. Are you back, Joel?
I'm back reluctantly. Just wanted one more thing to point out I forgot to mention before. We are hosting a REP workshop next week, the 22nd and the 23rd. On the 22nd, there's a mixer at 6 p.m., and then the workshop actually gets started on Wednesday, the 23rd. It's 9 to 4. typically boards and people like that don't show up for these kinds of things, but I want to let you know it's kind of a big deal to kick off and host this thing with those reps that want to attend. And it's something that you hear the term TDUs, the transmission distribution utilities, we're going to be like that in the market. They will host these periodically to make sure that we're all on the same page, and if there's something that we're missing that we need to fix, that's an opportunity to have that conversation with all of them and get that kind of stuff out there. So 22nd, 23rd. Ashley and Viviana, good job getting that set up. They did a great job piecing this together. Certainly appreciate them. Okay, other than that, I'm going to turn it over to Harvey, unless you want me to keep talking.
Harvey's number 8.
I have a
Your
question.
agenda. Sorry, Solomon.
Oh, I had a question. Can you elaborate a little bit on the reliability of the system? I think that's under your section here.
Okay, so you mean just generally in terms of the heat and stuff that we're having? So if you follow along with the ERCOT app, it's very, very informative, and there's things that you can look at that are pretty telling. And I'll use today as an example. Just go look at the wind energy that's being generated right now, because it's very, very low. There's not much wind energy on the market right now today, and so as the wind goes, so do the margins that we have and the amount of generation that's available within ERCOT. And so right now, ERCOT has been doing a really good job of managing that margin. At the very top of that app is a demonstration of what that margin looks like. What is the demand forecast, and what are the committed resources, and what are the available resources, is the way that they put that. And so far, there's still a nice cushion to make sure that we can maintain that reliability. We haven't seen anything other than the occasional call for some amount of conservation, which is normal and usual anyway. As you're going through hot times like this, we like to ask our customers to try to cut back where they can, do the things that they can and should. But so far, the ERCOT's done a really good job, and the grid's held up very, very well from everything that I'm seeing. And we're setting all-time peaks when I say this. So I'm going to knock on a little bit of wood and hope it doesn't get much worse than it is right now. But these are by far all-time peaks that we're seeing in ERCOT, and they're managing it very well. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, now Harvey.
Okay. So I just want to bring to you just a snapshot of our financial picture right now. And right now, everything's, for us financially, we're doing.
What page are you on?
This is going to, I believe we start on page 53. We're going to go 53, I believe, through 56. The book. So we tried to put that up there on the heading too on your. That was one thing. Actually, I'll give that's Casey's credit. Casey just wanted it. She puts that up there on what page you are in the board book, just to help us out. Actually, it helped me out. So thank you, Casey. Actually, Casey right now is in training right now on bond issuances. As you know, just to tap on something really quick, and that is, just as Michael was talking about the process of the transition, we'll need to go out for bonds. So we're going to have a bond issuance that'll come out this fall. So Joe's been a part of that process. Casey will also be a part of that process. So she's actually going through some bond training right now as we speak. So looking forward to her help on that process, because it's going to come up here fairly quick. So just as Casey would normally, I'm just standing in for Casey today, and I won't do quite as well as she does. She does an excellent job. As you can see, our cash is our financial position for our assets. I'll just look at our balance sheet first, just kind of as an indication. Our cash is up slightly this month, just about $200,000. We had anticipated that we would have a bond draw. So what happens is, as we pay out, and actually I'll give you a picture of it. I'll just kind of cheat and show you how these tie in. If you look over at your statement of cash flows, or what's going to be that top document on your right-hand side, And you go in that June column and you come down and you'll see where it says cash flows from capital and related financing activities. And you'll see what's there is $6,765,000. You'll see that number there. What that is that is cash that is going out from us to finance capital activity. So and to the degree that that cash relates to our bonds that we have out, because we still have bonds that we're doing some work with, that's a cash draw from us. And so what we in turn is, as that happens and as it relates to our bond, we go back to the city and say, we need some of those bond proceeds to offset the cash that we just sent out the door. So we pay the bill first, and then we draw off the bond proceeds to replenish that cash in our reserve, in our account. So I think, Chair Gwen, that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. So we have, for the month of May and the month of June, we had a total of about $10 million worth of funds that went out related to our bonds. So we have a bond draw that that the city's behind a little bit with a lot of other things going on. So we have a $10 million bond draw that's going to add to that $67.8 million. Once we have that, we should have a picture that we're going to be fairly close to reserves. Won't be quite there, but we'll be close. So we've got a $10 million bond draw that we're anticipating to add to that 67.8. We also have a retiring escrow account. So we have a escrow account related to Encore's development of our 4OW work. And the final invoice from all of that work just came through in the month of July. So we will be refunded also in the month of September $2 million from that escrow account that will also come back to our cash. So that's going to continue to add to our cash. Just want to let you know that we have some cash coming back into our pockets here. The other thing I want to mention too is that look at our accounts receivables. You'll see our receivables went up by about $4 million. Part of that's just reflecting that you have higher bills right now, a lot of higher usage. We do have a small increase to receivables, really due to slowdown of disconnects. So as we get temperatures above that get into the hundreds, we're obviously not going to be doing disconnects. So that also contributes a small portion of that $4 million. Most of it is related just to higher power costs. That's pretty typical for this time of year. AP has increased due to higher purchase power costs. We have continued, now I'll just drop over to the cash flow statement. And just so you know, and I always kind of like to maybe even ask Dan and Eddie what your favorite one is on all this, and you can tell we're finance geeks. But what is your favorite number in here? For me, the first number I always look at for an operation is net cash provided by operating activities. And for that $7.1 million, that means for cash out the door versus cash coming in the door, we're net positive $7 million. So we've got $7 million more coming in than we had going out for the month. You can see that number switch around a little bit during the course of a year, but just know that if that number starts to go negative for extended points of time, you're going to watch your cash go down and you're going to start having trouble. So it's just always a number. If you want to look at the health of a company, usually one of the first numbers you go run and look at. Investors do that a lot too. So we're doing very positive in that regard. Our reserve, again, right now is at $67.8 million or $67.9. That's about 87% of where we need to be for our reserve target. Again, we got some cash coming in to help us with that. Down on the ratios down below, obviously our debt to total assets actually dropped by 2%. That has to do with the retirement of a 2013 revenue bond that we're extinguishing. We had the final payment on that, so that falls off. You can see the effect of that. Our debt service coverage ratio, so that's how many dollars of free cash flow do we have in our current operating cash flow, really looking at your operating income compared to your debt service. Right now, we've got $1.91 for every dollar of debt service we need to obligate. Your bond covenant says that needs to be at 1.25. To be at about a AA ratio, you need to be 2 or better. So we're very close to that, and that's about where we've been hovering. So we're doing fairly well in terms of that. On the next, just looking briefly at our at our operating revenue is $4.2 million over the month of May, just really more as a reflection of PCRF pulling in some more revenue to charge our customers to pay for our power costs. Budget to actuals, as we look down below, our departmental expenses are running, right now, all of these should be running at about 70%. So we're 3/4 of the way through the budget year. Those should be at about 75% if we were right on budget. So anything you see below 75% means you're running under budget for the year. Departmental expenses right now are running at 65%. A big chunk of that has to do with the fact that we still have a number of budgeted but unfilled positions right now. So we're down, especially on compensation and pay for right now. So we're running under budget, and that's certainly reflected there. There are other factors, but those are pretty big drivers of it. Purchase power costs is running at 69% as opposed to 75%, and that's just, we had anticipated higher power costs for this year. So right now we were budgeting a little over $3-ish, and right now we're running about $2.50 for gas. Looking at that, so we're running under. Power costs are costing us a little bit less, and just as we had discussed before, as we continue to hedge appropriately, that continues to manage those costs, so they continue to come down. Obviously, the other things are running on the budget. One thing I might mention is charges for services are slightly lower than budget, again, due to purchase power costs are down. Operating income continues to remain fairly strong. There we've got it at $4.8 million, slightly higher than our budget. We're continuing to do well with continued operating cash flows. So with that in mind, that's what I have. Any questions on our cash flow, on our financial statements? Okay.
I think, any questions of Harvey? Thank you, very well done.
Okay, I also have the documents that I'm going to hand out to the board that are related to the ordinance change. I was just going to hand those out here in a minute, but I'll let this, I think we've got.
If the minutes will note that the handout was made to the board members.
That's correct. All right.
My Harvey is handing that out for you to be looking over. And a reminder, August 30th at 11 o'clock is the next finance meeting. Thank you, Harvey. Number 9 on the agenda is to consider a resolution recommending the City of Lubbock the 5 appointments or reappointments to the Electric Utility Board in accordance with Section 2.03.415. I believe those names are Mr. Fields, Mr. Davis, Mr. Harville. Oh, there they are. Schultz and Wilson. And we need to, though they have signed that they're willing to serve, we do need a resolution for that effect. And I'll entertain a motion to approve that resolution with those 5 names.
So moved.
Second.
Although it's been moved and seconded to accept that resolution with the 5 names, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion passed 8-0. Does anyone want to take anything off of the consent calendar? There are 6 items on there. Does anybody have anything that they would like to consider separately? If not, I'll consider a motion for acceptance of those consent items. Is there a motion to that effect? Mr. Wilson makes a second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries 8-0. And we are adjourned. Just as a reminder, look over these ordinance suggestions from Mr. Hall. And the 30th is the meeting, and the next board meeting is September 19th, a Tuesday. And that one, Is that the one we're going to do at the Hill? Yes, that'll be at Municipal Hill on the 19th because they're going to be redoing things in the council chambers. Okay, thank you very much to everyone.